Welcome to Lights Up, the podcast that will bring the world of entertainment to one-on-one conversations with the experts in the entertainment business. We invite you to learn about their experience and understand the development, transformations, and importance of the entertainment industry at an international level. This is Lights Up. Hello, everybody. My name is Victoria Neri, and joining me in today's episode is Santiago Fernandez.
Hi. How are you? How's everything going?
I'm great. What about you?
I'm great. I'm super happy to have this first edition in English and our second edition of the podcast already up. I hope everyone likes it. I hope they like the Spanish version and they also like the English version as well.
Yeah.
But before we start, I would like to dedicate this episode to everyone involved in the creating of this podcast, all the students, all the teachers of the Universidad Anáhuac Cancun. We're doing this for you, and I hope you enjoy it as well as we do.
Of course. Now, before we start, I think it's important to tell everyone a little bit of the context of what is being in the industry. What is this big business that we're talking about, and find out what are we bringing people here along with us to tell us their study.
Yeah, I think the most important part of the entertainment industry is that it's the main source of income in the world. Like every single country has a big part of their budget coming in from just the entertainment industry.
Of course, and this may include concerts, books, music management, sports events, so many areas. It's insane.
Yes, it goes from the cultural to the fun part. It's not only like the concert, no, you have like everything around it. So I think it's one of the best industries in the world.
Now, to get a little bit better of an understanding, we invite people over here today. And today's special guest is no other than Isa Arnaud.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm okay. Listening to your nice introduction. You're very good.
Well, if you don't know about Isabel, she is the editorial designer that specializes more in children illustrations. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Now, could you tell us a little bit about what do you do in the editorial industry?
Well, I have the advantage to be in both sides of the court because I'm an illustrator, but also I've been art directing for more than 20 years. So I'm really aware of what's going on inside the publishing house and outside as a provider of illustrations for the publisher. So it's quite funny to complain on both sides and to bring also to the conversation solutions based on this view from both sides of the story. And I've been doing this for 20 more years. My first job or my second job was in editorial.
Wow, that's really interesting to be able to take advantage of knowing both sides and what comes in either one.
Now, it's very important.
Yeah, of course. It can really up your game, right?
Yes.
Now, a little bit more about your passion in illustration. When was this born? When did it start for you?
Well, as long as I can remember myself as a person, I was totally sure about that I was going to go to the art school. I was completely aware that my life was going to be around pencils and materials. So when I arrived to college, I was all the way to design. It was my happiest moment in life. I enjoyed school so much. But particularly in editorial, I was all the time completely sure I was not going to do editorial design. But life has strange ways of taking you where you belong. And I started getting interested in illustration very early on. And of course, being interested in illustration, you have to go to editorial and to publishing. So I knew I was going to do this all my life. I was pretty sure.
Yeah, I know Isa for a while, and like since I know her, she's always like drawing and she's like messing around with the colors and all that stuff. So you can see that's her area. But do you have was it hard getting to the industry, or was it like getting your foot on the door?
At the beginning, yes, it was quite blurry. So if I could go back again and receive some advice, the advice I would love to receive would be this, especially here in Mexico. If you are going to be an illustrator for children publications, when I started, it took me a while to realize where to go and where to send my work. Later on, I discovered there was a very important award given by el Consejo Nacional de Publicaciones, and it was in the frame of la Feria Nacional del Libro Infantil y Juvenil. This is the first year we don't have that, and it's really, really sad. But for, I think it was 40 years, the community of illustrators in Mexico was born and nourished through this event. The thing is, you downloaded the parameters and you sent, I think it was top 5 illustrations, and it was a competition. And everybody who was somebody in the publishing industry for children was there. And I was very lucky. The first time I just have a mention, and then I got a prize. And that started my career as an illustrator. So I don't know what's gonna happen now with that the feria is no longer taking place, but I'm sure the best way to start, it's always looking for this kind of events. Iberoamérica Ilustra is a new event. It's very important, and I would advise to those young people who want to start in this, go to that event, read all the specifications, and send your work. It doesn't matter if you're not sure, if you're not the best. It's the way to start. You have to go and see, measure your work with the ones that are being honored with the prizes, and see why the guys are picking that kind of artwork. So you start to get in the business by playing those games.
Yeah, and I'm guessing that it's also a really great way to meet new people that maybe have more experience than you in this part.
Yes, there's also another important group of people, AMDI. It's the Mexican Association of Illustrators. It's a very important place to start and be part of a community, because if you pay your fee and you're part of that community, they give very good advice for those who are starting, and they give you advice how to charge for your work, where they publish all the competitions in Latin America and the world. And there's a big industry around this all around the world. You have fairs all over, in Berlin, in Frankfurt. In Europe, there are thousands of fairs, and they are very important. In Japan, they have a very important fair. So internationally, if you're starting or not, you have to send your work to these competitions, because things happen when you send this and people see your work all around the world, because there's a catalog published. So that catalog gets to the publisher houses and they pick illustrators from there. So it's very important.
Now, this kind of contest and all that stuff, it's really open to criticism, isn't it? So how do you deal with it? Like, many people will be like, "Oh, your work is amazing. Oh my God, you're the best illustrator in the world." But other people might say the contrary. So how do you face this adversity, like all this negative?
In the contests, they don't tell you why they pick you or why they didn't. They just pick people. You would have to be close to the examiners to ask why. And they have each competition has its mystique and why they pick people up. The really hard part of this is not in the competitions, because they don't. You get there with your first assignment, with your sketches all excited, and editors are rough. They are very, very rough, and the work you've done for a week or so may be totally rejected, and they make very deep comments about your work.
Many of the people who like make the decisions they don't know about like the technical part, or they don't know like what's going on. They're just like, hey, I need a design, I need an illustration about a star. So you illustrate about a star because they didn't give you like more context, or like what they explained you at the beginning is not what they imagined. And they just come up to you and say like, hey, I want this. This is not what I asked. And they're like, no, but like it has to be like this, because you know, like all this part of the design and everything in. And they're like, maybe I don't like it. Have you ever experienced something like that, Isa?
It's not that I don't like it. It's not working. It maybe your vision of a little girl with a blue backpack, it's one, but maybe you're being racist or maybe you're being biased in some way. And editors are their task is to move your scope to the point that it's important for the book or for the series or for whatever. So at the beginning, it's really painful and you have to grow up and really understand it's not personal. It took me a couple of years. You have to be enlightened, and it's not about you. It's about the meaning of the images you are making. So it's very important, and editors can be a source of improvement. So it's very important to listen to them, not getting angry, because many people get really angry when you cut and paste their work. As an art director, it's been part of my work sometimes. You have to be respectful, of course, but you have to ask permission for an illustrator. Okay, your illustration has some issues. May I cut and paste in Photoshop and place things around? Because there are people that get really, really, really offended if you touch their work.
Yeah, I mean, communication always in any team work, it's really important to make sure that everything happens and that everything's going as smooth as possible. Now,
yes.
You just mentioned a little bit about knowing your audience and maybe listening to your editor or everyone in the group. Now, what is the difference? Like targeting child, like you say, sometimes some topics are completely off. Like you cannot even like imagine putting them in a child's book. What are some of the main that you should completely stay away when treating a child audience?
Okay, some editorials have very strict guidelines about this subject, especially if it's an educational material. For example, if you are illustrating for a big publisher that sells books worldwide, you cannot, for example, illustrate pigs as pets or as food, because the books won't work for the Middle Eastern market. You cannot, of course, include guns or violence. You cannot include people smoking. You cannot, you preferably will illustrate women not showing arms or legs. So it's really modest. You have to really be careful of what you're putting in the image. If you're illustrating for literature, it's much easier. You don't have that strict guideline. If you're illustrating a story for the Mexican market, well, you can go all the way with your traditions and take a look at your references.
The editorial industry works with the entertainment industry. Like, why are they related?
Just take a look at Harry Potter. It's very simple. Literature and editorial and publishing, the main source of stories. Many of the great stories are not initially a movie or a play or any other thing than a story. Storytelling, I think, is the platform to build on top for all the rest of the industry. You have to have a story. You need to have something to say. If you don't have anything to say, it doesn't matter in which way you're portraying it. It's empty. Once in the university, one of the guys at the teams, they made a beautiful stop motion animation with 2 matches. That was their resource, 2 matches. And they made a brilliant story. It was compelling. It was heartfelt. It was everything. It has romance, drama. It was 2 matches. And they made the animation with the little matches. So maybe it's not about resources. It's about storytelling. So it's very important. The editorial world, it's totally related to entertainment.
Now, based on the entertainment, based on the entertainment part of it, many people say that stories shouldn't have illustrations or stories shouldn't have like drawings or anything in it, like pictures, because they caught your imagination, they cut it out. What's your opinion about it? Like, what do you think? Should story have illustrations or they shouldn't? I mean, you probably would like them, but
I think it depends on the author and what he's looking for. For very small children, written word means nothing, but pictures do mean things. But I think it depends on the story and the objective of the illustrator. I think of the author. I think both ways are totally valid.
Yeah, I mean, if we go back a little bit to what you were saying before, of making a story, even if you have only 2 matches, you have to make something that everyone can understand and know in your audience. I mean, if it's little kids, what they're going to be drawn to is the pictures and what the story of the beautiful images are telling them.
Yeah, you may have there. It's a whole market. The picture books for little children. I mean, these are big books, beautifully illustrated with 2 or 3 words, and children love them. Even grown-up people. If you like art and if you like illustration, I have tons of those books. I love them. They are compelling and they take you to the illustrator's world. There are illustrators that portray totally different realities from ours, and it's completely fun to look at their drawings and there's the vision of the world. So both ways may work perfectly. You have to be smart about it.
I totally agree on that. Like both of the stories are. I just thought like that popular opinion changes to people. But like being an illustrator, what's the biggest challenge you've ever found when doing a literature book?
It's like running a marathon. When you're starting, it's like, oh my God, so much work, too many hours ahead of me. But once you get started and you start warming up, you start enjoying the race. So I think getting started, it's probably the difficult part. This is when the publisher calls you to illustrate something. If you're illustrating as an independent person and you want to take your book to be published, that is the hard part. That a publisher, a big house, picks your story, your book to be published. That is hard.
Wow, okay. Most will say that's the proudest moment sometimes, but of course, everything comes with a great difficulty. Now, personally, in, let's say, concerts, you get a little bit sad when it ends. What about when you're publishing a book? When it comes out, what's the next step?
There are like 2 sides for this. A book is never finished. You can restart it every time you open it, and every time people open your book, it's getting started. For you as an artist, that's another story. You finish your book, you illustrate your book, and it's smelling as fresh ink, and you have it in your hand. Sometimes you have to present that book in a fair, and you go and sign some autographs and sign some. You go to a book signing, and that's amazing, especially when you have little children asking you for your signature. It's very nice.
A little kid coming to you and saying like, "Can you sign this little book of me?" Or like.
Well, I have a story. When I published 10 years ago, my best friend and I, she wrote the book, I illustrated it, and we got picked up to be published. And the book was presented in the Feria Internacional del Libro Infantil. Maria, my daughter, was like 2 years old. And oh no, it was another book by Cristina Pacheco, and you know her. It's like a big name in the industry here. It was her first children's book, Cristina Pacheco book. I illustrated it, and we presented it in El Papalote Museo del Niño. Maria was 2 years old, and everything went okay. She got interviewed, and we were. It was amazing, and we were signing books. And Maria, Cristina Pacheco, was really sweet to her, and Maria was so rude, so rude to this big lady of entertainment. And may I hold you or something like that? And she said, no, and she went away. It was horrible. But that time, little children came to ask for my autograph, and at the beginning they were not they were not understanding what I was writing in the books, and I ended up making little donkeys, because it's about a donkey, in their first page, and they were really happy with the little donkeys I was drawing.
Oh, that sounds so joyful. I can just imagine it.
It's really nice. It's very tiring, but it's really nice to be in touch with little children.
Yes, I can just see like their little faces like Words, I don't know about those, but
Yeah,
yeah. Oh, that is so nice. Now, what is a myth that this industry has that you would like to set straight?
a myth.
Mm-hmm. That's a juicy one.
I think everybody's got this fantasy about their Harry Potter successful book. It's not like that. That's really one in a million. Wait, the dog is doing something. Um, you have to work hard. It's not that easy. You have to work and work and work and practice and practice and practice. And this is very nice because you get to know your craft and your medium. So it's very important. But myths, maybe that's every illustrator or author fantasy to have a bestseller book. But no, you have to work.
Now, before we head up, could you send us a message to any student that's studying entertainment business management, like any advice or anything about like why they should study? Or
probably your granny or your dad or your mom said you're gonna starve. Honey, you're gonna starve. Well, if you work and you're really committed with what you like, I've been living from editorial and from publishing and from illustration my whole life. My whole adult life. So it's quite feasible. You can do it. You have to work. And another thing I would really advise you to is try to focus on technique for a while. Don't. I'm really dispersed. I tend to go. I'm all over the place with all sorts of techniques, and I think that's not very good. Try to focus on something and finish your project, and again and again and again, and then compare what you started with and what you ended up with, and really see the progress in your work. But don't be scared. It's a very nice industry, and if you love it, you're going to be very happy. So don't be scared. You're not going to starve, and you don't starve if you work. So it doesn't matter if it's in illustrating children book. A lot of people live from it. It's really a joyful living. I mean, you could, I don't know, make cigarettes or something like that, and it's okay. But we make pictures and we make children and people happy, and I'm happy doing them. I enjoy it very much.
Oh, that is so nice. Now, any final message, or maybe you want to tell us a little bit more about a new project coming up that you want to tell our audience?
Well, right now I'm starting today a project. So I'm starting a marathon, and it's a very different project from all the projects I've made, because now I'm investigating the new ways of reaching different audiences. And I discovered this page where people post what they need, and you say, hey, I know how to do that, and like that, exactly. And I found this guy who's illustrating his story. He lives in Switzerland, and he has this story for his little girl when they walk around their farm, and he wrote it, and he wanted to be illustrated and give it to her daughter for her birthday. So it's really nice because I've never illustrated something that personal. I mean, it's a very, very simple story. It doesn't have twisted things or whatever. It's really straightforward, but it's so sweet because it's a very personal thing. And well, I'm starting that. It's a short story. It's 9 images, but I'm really happy to do it.
Thank you very much for your time. It was a pleasure having you here. I think what you taught us today, I think it's gonna transcend to every generation. It's not only about the entertainment industry, but like to every single person that's starting a new degree or starting something new.
Yeah, just go for it.
I think your advice, I took it. Like not many people know it, but like she was the one who was like, I might study it. She was like, go for it. Just go. Like nothing's gonna happen. If you regret, there's always more time for you to study the new thing. Thank you very much for joining us today.
I'm really, really happy to be here for you. And thank you very much for listening.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode and learning a little bit more about the editorial industry. Now, we would like to remind you to follow us on those social medias, Instagram at UAC Comudin, and on Facebook as Comunicación y Entretenimiento Anáhuac Cancun. Now, that's it, everybody. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Bye.
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 If you enjoyed this podcast, we invite you to keep listening to the episodes that are posted weekly. We also want to remind you that in every episode, we have a special guest here to tell us about their experience and trajectory in different areas of entertainment. Lights Up welcomes you to the entertainment world. See you in our next show.